Welcome back to Her Take. Yesterday, the world buried Charlie Kirk, and I think we are all still reeling. We're going to be talking about the memorial, and then we're going to be moving on and covering the ongoing scandal and conspiracy theories surrounding his death. And last but not least, Kash Patel. Everybody here seems to be pretty disappointed with Kash Patel and how he handled Charlie's assassination, as well as the fact that for some reason, we still don't have the Epstein files. So we're going to start off with Charlie's memorial. And I figure we'll just go around the table here. Lindy, do you want to lead us off? What did you think? How did you feel?
I was astounded by the turnout. About 200,000 people showed up, which is tremendous.
Right.
And people came together in love, in unity. There were no riots. Everyone was just incredibly respectful of each other. So I was amazingly floored. And not only that, there were so many people there. The spillover in the Desert Diamond Arena, they had a tremendous turnout there as well. It looked like, you know, there was enough for a concert. And so in the original stadium, it was filled to the rafters, and the luminaries of the Republican Party were almost all there. You had President Trump, Vice President Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Everyone spoke. And then there were influencers like Benny Johnson and others who were close to Charlie. But I think the highlight of the evening was, of course, Ana Kirk's speech. And 3 words, actually 4, I'm sorry. She said, 3 words, I forgive him. That young man who killed my husband, I forgive him. And that sent shivers down my spine. I thought that was incredibly powerful, ladies. What did you think?
Yeah, much the same. You know, it is a Christian value to talk about forgiveness, unconditional forgiveness, and it's something that is extremely difficult to do, but I think that's just evidence of what happens when the Holy Spirit is truly moving through you in your life. Like, you see the physical manifestation of that, and we saw that last night, and I believe her. I don't know if I could have uttered those words and meant them, but when she said them, and I believed her.
You know, I remember when, and bear with me while I kind of explain this because it's going to sound weird at first, but I remember when several years ago, Dylan Roof went into a black church and gunned down 9 black people, like as they were in the middle of their last prayer. And some of the congregants later came out and talked about forgiveness, and there was a lot of debate in the media about like how it's unfair how there's all this pressure for, you know, black people of faith to forgive. Like there was this pressure for them to do it, but I don't think that was the case. I actually agree with you because I was raised Christian. I later became agnostic and then atheist, but I remember that being a really important core part of Christian faith, to forget those, including those who have done terrible things to you, who have betrayed you. And I think that is a really great value to have. And I like to separate it out from religion. I don't think you necessarily have to be a Christian to engage in that type of forgiveness, because what that does, it's not just about forgiving the perpetrator. It's about kind of like releasing anger and resentment from your heart. You know?
My mama always said that when you want revenge, it's like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. And
That's
it's so true. I mean, in my prayers every night, I ask for the ability to be able to forgive others, but also for the ability to be able to forgive myself. I think forgiveness is just such an important thing in general. We're so hard on ourselves, we're hard on other people. And when you're able to live your life with genuinely living truly in forgiveness, and it's so much easier said than done. Again, I cannot sit here right now and claim that I could get to the level, especially within 11 days, that Ana Kirk was able to get to. But I think she's a tremendous role model, and that was an incredible message in that time.
Can we watch the video?
Yeah,
if
we
ladies
have
don't
that
mind?
clip. Can we, Connor, do you mind if you play the Thank you.
That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
all those people stood up and echoed the sentiment.
Yes, so incredibly powerful. And I just want to say that this is not the first time that she articulated this view. In the New York Times yesterday, she had an incredibly powerful interview, and I encourage everyone to read it. I don't usually read an article from top to bottom, but I sure as hell did for this. And the last line of the article, and I don't know if you saw it, she said, I don't want to go before Jesus. And Jesus is like, an eye for an eye. Is that how we're really going to do it? And she said, I don't want to have this guy's name, have this guy's blood on my ledger, and that prevent me from being with Charlie for all eternity.
I really wish we had political leaders who thought that way, right? Because right now, I feel like the country is in a really dangerous place. And I'm worried that what happened to Charlie Kirk could snowball into an era of political violence.
Unquestionably, it could be the beginning of a very dark chapter.
Yeah.
I feel it. I'm seeing it. And I agree with you completely that there needs to be a leader who steps up and brings us together. But I want to make a distinction, and I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But I want all of your thoughts on this. This young man is dark and he is ill. I understand wanting to forgive him, and I understand why that brings you peace, but I have zero problem with him getting the death penalty.
Oh, for sure.
Zero.
He should face the
He
firing
does
squad.
he no longer needs to be on earth. And I appreciate there is some level of spirituality. While I am not religious, I think things happen for a reason. I have some faith in arguably a creator, quite possibly. I don't know. I'm agnostic. Hence, I don't know. But you know, it's not for me to say. But when evil manifests, and I say evil not like the devil, I mean darkness. When you take someone's life in front of their child in the world like that, you have succumbed to the darkness. There is no coming back for me. You no longer need to be here. You are no longer of service. You can be put to death. I am sorry. And I respect what she's done. And I think that a leader who unites us, like, I don't know how you can't unite with that. I think we need to be very clear that people calling for violence and hatred and othering need to be reduced, marginalized, isolated, not killed, not retaliated, unless, of course, you've committed some heinous crime and that's the law. Right. Not vigilantism, taking violence into your own hands. But there has to be someone that can bridge these ideologies. Who do you think that is? Is there anyone?
Well, that's the thing. I don't really see, in terms of the political elite, I don't really see too many people who are willing to put politics aside and focus on humanity, right? Because we can have political debates. They can be fiery. They can even be vicious at times. But if you lose sight of the fact that you're engaging with a human being, when you start to dehumanize people, you lose the country, and that's what I'm worried about. And I don't see very many political leaders.
That's absolutely right, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I think this is 1960s redux. Let me remind you what happened in 1963 on November 22nd. JFK was shot, and only 5 years later, we had Martin Luther King Jr. gunned down. And 2 months later, by the way, a man who spoke on the same evening that Martin Luther King Jr. was shot, he said, drop by drop, pain. It was a quote from Aeschylus's Agamemnon. He said, pain that, cannot be expressed falls on the heart. And we see like the awful grace of God. That man who said those words on the night that Martin Luther King Jr. was gunned down was himself shot 2 months later. You know who that man was? Robert F. Kennedy. They were killed 2 months apart. And if we don't do anything right now, we are going to see the same pattern of violence. We've seen this movie before. We know how it ends. And so it's so critical that our leaders say, yes, like Ana said, we can argue with our hearts, pour our souls into having these political debates, but we draw the line at violence.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Jill, I think that forgiveness is kind of what we need right now, because there is a difference between like your heart posture and like culture and how you want to impact culture and then the law. There is a difference between like social ramifications and then the law, the marketplace of ideas and then the law. She stated that she's down, like if the state decides that corporal punishment is the best mechanism, she's trusting the state. Like, that's what she's saying. She's not trying to advocate that he doesn't face the death penalty by any means. There does need to be law and order. We do need to create deterrence. Obviously, it's an issue where just before this incident, we saw the issue with Irina, the immigrant from Ukraine, and the person who brutally murdered her on that train had been released, what, some 14 times or something from the system. We do need to see the hammer of justice come down on all of these things, but I think simultaneously we need a message of unity, of forgiveness, of bringing people together. I have to give a huge shout out to Connor, who's on the ones and twos right now. He said something so impactful last week that I shared with the both of you while we were getting ready. Guys, amongst the right, we've become like this big tent party. Okay, where there's all different types of people, different denominations of Christianity, agnostics, atheists, whatever it may be. And there's been a lot of infighting. But I think one thing that this tragedy has made us all realize, that was put very astutely by Connor, is that none of these people are our enemies. None of these people are our enemies. The Catholics should not be fighting with the Christians, okay? The far right should not be fighting with the moderates. The enemies are the people who, number one, did this, but number two is celebrating it. The people who are perpetuating this violent cycle, that are celebrating it, those are our enemies. And if the people on the other side of that who are willing to condemn that behavior can all come together, that's what's going to shift the culture. We can all agree on the hammer of justice, law and order approach, but I think culturally we need to come together. We need to be accepting. We need loving forgiveness to be able to move forward.
What did you guys think of Tulsi's speech? And you know, I've quietly supported her. When I watched last night, I'll be honest, no one really spoke to me. I thought it was beautiful. Erica Kirk was incredible. Let's table that. I don't know how this woman stood on that stage and gave that speech. She has a strength I couldn't ever dream of having, and she was by far the most unbelievable, inspiring individual there, unquestionably. With that said, everybody else that spoke, there was some I'm going to be honest, there was some othering of us against them. I didn't love that.
I agree.
Okay, and while I totally understand that Charlie was Christian and this was about him and his religion, there were moments, I'll be honest, where, Vance is like, Christ is king, and I thought, like, what does that mean if I'm not Christian, though? Where do I fall into this coalition? And I felt a little bit like, maybe I don't belong here. Like, maybe I'm an interloper.
I just think it's
I didn't get the big tent vibe. I'm not going to lie. I felt a little bit like, I think maybe I've infringed where I don't belong.
Because it was a funeral, though, not an RNC, and this is an issue that people have brought up, is they felt like it was. A lot of people felt that way, and as a result, people like you...
I felt a little, well, until Tulsi.
It's a funeral. The funeral should be commensurate with the person's values, right? But because every single person in the Conservative Party was there, and it was also, it had the appearance in everything other than the name.
If Charlie were a private citizen, obviously because of the fact that he was a man of faith, like, obviously his memorial would have that, Christian message.
Of course it should.
But what made this difficult is that he wasn't a private citizen. He was a public figure who obviously had close ties to the Trump administration. He helped get Trump elected. And you have all these government officials from the federal government, giving speeches. So I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm not a religious person either. What I tried to kind of keep in mind as I was watching these speeches, especially when they became very religious, and one of my favorite speeches was actually Tucker Carlson's. We'll get to a clip of that in just a second. I just tried to take my own views of religion out of it and try to take in the message. And if the message was a positive one, I liked the speech. And I really do think that Tucker Carlson had a positive message because it was about accountability and taking account. Well, you know what? Let me not put words in his mouth. Let's play it. Yeah.
We've fallen short, and then it becomes possible to forgive other people. That is a call to change our hearts from Jesus, and that is the only way forward in this country. That is the only solution to where we all know we're going. And Charlie knew where we were going without that. And that is not a call for being politically passive. Of course not. I stood on many stages with Charlie calling for various people to be elected, particularly Donald Trump. And I'm proud of that. It's only an acknowledgement that what Charlie was really saying is that change begins, the only change that matters, when we repent of our sins.
Okay, so again, I just decided I'm going to take the religion out of it.
I understand completely.
And yeah, I do think that it's important to think about what kind of country you want to live in. And I don't have control over anyone else's behavior. I do have control over mine, though. And, you know, when I got into this debate with Destiny on Piers Morgan's show, he was just like, I'm not going to condemn it until Trump condemns political violence. And it's like, you can't control Trump, but you can control yourself.
Right.
And
good point.
You can model yourself after the type of, you know, citizens you want to see, the type of culture you want to see in the country. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. And I get it. It's like really, really challenging to do it because politics is incredibly divisive in the country right now, and people are so good at dehumanizing each other.
Yeah.
So when I'm being met with someone dehumanizing me, obviously you know, you get tempted to like engage in the same type of rhetoric and discourse, and I used to take the bait every time.
I know.
I do want to mention, though, as a Christian and as someone who's kind of had to hide my faith,
Which is unacceptable.
Well, as a Democrat, you know, they just malign you if you're religious. They think you're stupid. You know, like, why would you ever? They called it your sky daddy. It was incredibly offensive, but I've been a Christian all my life. And actually, I heard Chris Tomlin yesterday at the concert. I grew up listening to Chris Tomlin. Hearing him perform Holy Forever, I wanted to cry. It was so special for me. You know, because we've had to hide our religion and our faith for so long, I feel like, in recent years.
And you shouldn't.
But
That
it was
is
just so
absolutely
beautiful.
wrong.
What I mean is, like, for one, this is somebody's funeral. It was his memorial service. Let's not lose sight of that.
And he said, when they asked him, what do you want to be remembered
His
for the most? He
faith.
could have said so many things. He's done so many positive things. But what he said was, I want to be known for being brave in my faith and professing the word of God. So that, in my opinion, I do completely understand where you're coming from, because in everything other than name, it had a lot of the appearance of a convention. So I get it. But that is how Charlie would have wanted to be remembered at his funeral.
But if you are a political figure, I did appreciate the certain people who said his God. He wanted to be with his God, and it should be a Christian ceremony. But when someone like J.D. Vance gets up there and states, as a matter of fact, Jesus is king, I'm like, what does this mean if you're my president and I'm not Christian? I can't help but think that. Whereas, like, when Tulsi got up there, she spoke of God. Just God. Your God could be whoever, like, could be Jewish, could be Hindu, could be Buddhist, could be Muslim, could be Christian, could be Catholic, Protestant, more, whatever. God. And I felt a bit more like, that's a broader tent, okay? And she celebrated him and the spirit of debate and the First Amendment. She didn't other anyone. I felt that she reached out and tried to bridge these ideologies. And I'm sorry, I think she
I get what you're
is one of the
saying.
only people that does this. And she has said to me before, when I have expressed my deepest concern about where we are with the othering and the divisiveness, and she said, Jillian, your concerns about this are very real, and divided we fall is very real, and we need to do everything we can to work against that. I didn't see a ton of people working against that who had political motivations. That's the thing. Charlie and his friends and his family, and it was beautiful, and I appreciate it. But there were some people there I felt like had political aspirations, and I was a bit, I think, thrown off.
Honestly, I think Christian nationalism was the point. I think that was really the point. Absolutely.
So I didn't watch the whole memorial beginning to end.
Yes.
I caught a few of the speeches.
I think they're trying to mainstream it. And
okay,
frankly,
well, that's an issue, because we're supposed to value religious liberty in this country, and I think that's what makes this country great.
That's
That
one of
was
Charlie's core arguments.
That's
one of actually one thing that he repeated time and time again. When someone would say we're not a Christian nation, he would say, look at the state constitutions instead, and they are clearly Christian, language embedded.
Of course, and it's the values and the morality, and I appreciate that. I just, like, in fact, Tulsi brought up the Constitution. She talked about him being a constitutionalist and how important these rights are. And for me, I felt.
I think that's a legitimate. I think that's
to
a
me.
legitimate, concern to bring up. And look, Christian nationalism is on the rise in America. And I just think having one religion rule the country goes against the founding of this country.
That's not what Charlie would want.
He wouldn't want it.
That's
I don't think he would want it.
Was.
Right.
I actually think that's what he wanted.
But he supported the Constitution literally.
He said it. He had this.
I actually wasn't
He
sure.
said,
I
I'm
turned
not
to
a
Connor and
Christian
just asked as
nationalist.
if
I've
it
never
was
No, he
He's
said no.
not.
His argument is that people who say that we are not a Christian nation, he said, let's bear in mind that we were 13 colonies, and almost every single colony had Christian language saying we are one, this is a colony under, this is a, they didn't say colony, but they said this is a community under faith. God is our government.
But
When
faith
he
is
want
broad,
to,
correct?
I mean, yes,
We
but
have
okay,
freedom of religion for a reason.
It's one thing to say that like Christian religion is the dominant religion in America, right?
I think that's what he wanted.
Okay,
not
Again,
the governing.
cultural influence. This is the difference between
Yes.
legalities, right, and making things like legally necessary
the morality
versus
of Christianity, I completely appreciate, so much so that I almost went to church. And as a gay person, it's really a challenge. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, we were talking about Winsome Earl Sears before this, and I think she's fantastic. And yet, she opposes gay marriage. And I just want to sit down and say, like, what do I do as a gay person when I identify with 99% of the things you say, but my family, I have to protect my family. Marriage comes with over 1,000 rights. What am I supposed to do about that? Because your God doesn't believe in my lifestyle. Like it's kind of it's the main rub between the LGBT community.
And that's why I
it's a
actually
tough
kind of love Charlie's stance on this.
Right.
He can be personally opposed to gay marriage, but what you do is completely
He
not
never
our
tried to
business.
legislate opposing it, by the way. Not one
It's
time.
just not his-
Never.
it's not our
He never
business.
moved to block it legally. He didn't put forward policy, didn't back policy. He never, ever tried to take away gay marriage.
There are two reasons why. Number one is just love. Like, he cares about you. He loves his gay friends. That's number one.
He does.
But there's
He
also
does.
a political consideration. Because politics inherently is a game of addition, not of
Not
subtraction.
subtraction,
So
100%.
why would you be alienating such a critical part of the American community?
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
I mean, you've seen the video of that kid who comes up to him in one of his debates, and he's like, "Hey, I'm a gay conservative, and I have some questions for you." And he said, "Okay, I'm happy to answer them, but why do you feel the need to identify yourself that way?" And he said, "You have a point. I guess I want to be known as more than just being gay. Yeah, I'm a person." And then they proceed to have a discussion, right? But it's just he was very much so about, like you said, addition, not subtraction, and let's unite on the values that we do agree on.
I love that so much because the Democrats are always hyphenating Americans. Like, you're a gay American, I'm an Asian American,
Right.
or
Labels.
that person is trans, that person would have whatever, and like I am A and HPI. They had these abbreviations. Every year they would get longer. Now it's like LGBTQI+. I would not be surprised if they added another letter next year.
Well,
So
hey,
why-
no,
are
go on,
they
sorry,
actually
finish.
adding another
No,
one?
I
Is
was
it too serious? Sorry.
Oh my gosh. It's off
Ah.
topic, but news broke over the weekend that the LGBs are officially divorcing from the T. I don't know what to
Good,
say.
because we want our normies.
I agree that most of the
No
bad actors
labels.
come from the trans community. I will say that from what I've seen, anecdotally and from the research that I've done, the bad actors have mostly come from the trans community.
But I'm going to say that, like, when it comes to everyday Americans, yes, we can place blame when they engage in divisive rhetoric and othering.
Right.
But you also have to take into consideration that the fish rots from the head down, which is why I brought up how desperately we need political leadership that's willing to put this gross, dehumanizing discourse aside and actually engage from a place of, okay, we might disagree politically, but this is a human being. This is my fellow American. We have a shared identity as Americans who love this country and want this country to do great things.
Matters so much.
And I was really hoping, and I know this is at this point kind of naive, that this would be a great opportunity for the president to preach a message of unity, of understanding. And it was a lengthy speech, so bear in mind, this is not the full context of what he had to say, but he got into political policy at one point, and then he differentiated himself from Charlie Kirk in one of the worst ways, if you ask me. And here's the moment that I'm talking about.
In that private moment on his dying day, we find everything we need to know about who Charlie Kirk truly was. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Looking down, he's angry at me.
Even if the president feels that way, I just feel like it was an inappropriate time to talk about hate. Because hate is what is leading to the dehumanizing of your fellow Americans just based on political differences. Hate is what's leading to the violence. We need to take a minute and just really take in like the moment that we're in and how desperately we need to consider the future of this country and where we want it to go.
You know what's so funny? I watched that and I thought it was a bit of a mea culpa.
Really?
I thought it was a step back.
No way.
I was like, oh my gosh, he's saying maybe I shouldn't do this. I guess they'll work on me to try to help me push through. I completely interpreted it differently. No. You saw it as a double down. I saw it as a step back.
Yeah, I mean,
That's interesting.
I'm actually with Anna on this. I think he was trying to heighten the stakes, and let me tell
That's
you why.
interesting. God, I saw it the other way.
I
Perception's
completely
crazy.
Isn't that wild? I was like, wow, look at him saying maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe this isn't the right thing to be doing. And you guys saw it.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
completely
bananas.
subscribe to your prescription for what needs to happen, but let me tell you why that's not going to happen. Because look
Lindy.
at all. I'm sorry.
it's not. I
agree.
agree. Yeah.
It's
on
not,
that
because
note-
let me tell you, because when you get a fundraising email from ActBlue, NGP, or even WinRed, what's going to scare people? Is it going to be they're Hitler, they're the Nazis, the other side is going to come get you, or is it going to be like Kumbaya? Which one is going to get them fundraising?
It's the hyperbolic stuff.
Exactly. It's fear-mongering.
And
That's
that
what
goes
sells.
to, I think, a deeper problem we have in American politics, and that's the way campaigns get funded.
Right.
Right? I think that we should have like public funding of elections. We need to find another way to do this because
Anna, that's true, but the last time that happened, like I completely agree
that
with
Bernie?
you. The last time it happened was McCain versus Obama in 2008, and McCain got clobbered.
What about Bernie, though? Wasn't he like, I'm only taking
But he didn't.
X amount
He
of
didn't
dollars?
follow through. He did not follow through.
He didn't.
He didn't. He
Is that got
And
a
also
lot
what
of momentum.
happens is
Kids
what-
loved that.
that
I was a
happens-
little weary of his economic
Yes.
policies, but
he loved saying we're not funded by billionaires. He had a actually
That was a
to
lie.
his credit. Well, no, he was not funded by a
wasn't,
billionaire. He
yeah.
wasn't. He had a massive online operation. To his credit, it was like and the average is $27.
right. I was like a
Love
2.
saying-
I'm like, what number
exactly.
is that? 12, 20?
The thing about McCain in 2008 is he unilaterally disarmed. He wasn't good. He's not much of a fundraiser anyway, but Obama was like fundraising the heck out of the country, whereas O'Kane relied on public financing, wasn't able to get anywhere.
well, that's the thing. You can't have a system in which one candidate unilaterally
That's what
disarms.
happened.
Yep.
But if we had a system in which every candidate is publicly funded, right, then we can have a conversation about actually having elections that matter,
Yes.
where they're not feeding into this like hate frenzy and dehumanizing people. And I'm going to do my best to not allow my emotions to get to me to the point where I say things that are hyperbolic, because I've obviously fallen victim
We've
to
all
that.
been
right?
there. We're
has, yeah.
human. That's we have all been there, and that's one of the things that I did love about what Tucker said as I was watching what you played there. Is he's like, take some responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, start with you, and that's what we're all gonna do. And unless we've got more to say, we will move on because Amy has a monster-sized segment.
Let's do it.
You guys ready for this?
Okay.
Oh my gosh. There is just, guys, there is so much. We're going to do our best to break it down into 2 distinct segments. So the first one is we're going to run with some of the things from the official narrative that Kash Patel is putting out there, that the mainstream media is putting out there, revolving around this individual, Tyler Robinson. Now, obviously, there are a lot of irregularities around how this is proclaimed to happen. Everything from the time frame in which he would have exited the vicinity, to the strange text messages that were sent, to the fact that he disassembled the rifle and then reassembled it and then left it in the wilderness. There's a lot of really strange things, but the main thing that everyone's really been talking about over the period of the last several days has been these text messages. So I want to go ahead and dive into them them. But more than that, I want to talk about this ChatGPT analysis that I've seen go mega viral everywhere. Now, obviously, guys, this isn't me putting 100% of my trust in ChatGPT, okay? It makes errors all the time, but, you know, it's kind of echoing here what the public sentiment has been, which is that these messages seem fake and they seem made up, and it basically seems like Kash Patel and whoever else sat around and they're like, how do trans lovers talk to one another? Let's figure out how we can put together this narrative, because some of the language that was used was just really, really unusual. Do you have it up on the screen there, Connor?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, wonderful. So let's just run through the text messages really, really quickly. Then we'll go through the ChatGPT analysis of some of the things that it's calling out. So essentially, it starts, look under your keyboard. What? You're joking, right? I am still okay, my love. I'm stuck in Orem for a while longer yet.
Who talks like that?
A while longer yet, right? Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I'd hurt to keep this a secret until the day that I died. I'm sorry to involve you. Okay, we're gonna get into the ChatGPT thing, but how is that the first thing that you say?
Also, he left a note under the keyboard.
Yeah.
Like, what are you even doing here?
Right, you'd hurt to keep it a secret until the day that you died, but you left a note under your keyboard?
Yeah, that's an inconsistency. That's strange.
Within the very first message, who are you leaving the note for, right? You weren't the one who did it. Tyler says, I am. I'm sorry. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude. They interrogated someone in similar clothing. This is also a weird comment to make because we hear that Tyler Robinson, in fact, changed clothing throughout. So which item of clothing are we referring to, and how were you able to see the other person that they interrogated to be able to confirm that? Right?
I feel like there are two possibilities, or three. Number one, these could be totally authentic. That I'm not giving too much weight to at this moment, because I do agree, like, this is a 22-year-old who talks like that.
Also, there seem to be
He's supposed to be exceptionally intelligent. He's obviously
not
bananas.
exceptionally. I would just say, like,
I thought he was
above
supposed to be
average.
very
Like,
intelligent.
like above average. I wouldn't say he's like brilliant.
He got a
I know, but it was. I'm not going to do this because it's like a.
So he's not that smart.
I mean, there was a video that got released. He did get a scholarship to the school, right? So he is of above average intelligence.
I know, but
if he's to get a full ride for
it wasn't like
college,
Harvard.
Okay, so there are two other possibilities. So number one, possibly authentic. Number two, maybe this was staged by the two of them in order to clear the roommate from knowing about it ahead of time. Now I know what you're referring to when you mentioned Breaking Bad.
Yes, that is do you want to talk about the clip? Or?
Well, really quick, let's just go through the last two strange things with these text messages, and then we'll go into that. Then we'll go into the ChatGPT.
Well, you didn't get to the third possibility. Then go to the. Hold on,
The third possibility is that the feds are just totally making this up.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Ames, go.
So the main thing that people were calling out was like the language used here, where he says that I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as I got to my vehicle. This seems to be the thing that everybody's stuck up on, in addition to, I'm worried that what my old man would do if I didn't bring back grandpa's rifle. So the usage of the word vehicle, I mean, I don't know about you. Have you guys ever used the word vehicle in casual conversation when describing your car? See,
like, let's hop in our vehicle to get home. Who says that? Have you ever said that?
I just can't tell if the kid is super duper bizarro.
Like he's just
a
like
murderer. He's having sex with a trans person who thinks that they're an animal.
Right.
And
I mean,
he has an above average IQ.
Yes, he's a furry trans.
Oh, you didn't know that?
That's been confirmed. I didn't know.
Yes, sorry, that has been absolutely confirmed.
Yeah.
And that's another part of this that we're going to dive into.
And it's a whole.
You see the bulge?
I mean, he's not a normal kid. Obviously, he's a murderer, and his brain's got.
So let's also clarify that as well. I mean, you aware, Anna, of what was inscribed in these bullets?
The bullets
as well.
I know that there was a lot of debate and some misinformation about the inscriptions, but tell me what.
So, hey, fascist catch.
Yes.
Is one of them.
Yes.
Notice bulges, OWO, and the O's are capitalized. This is a furry community, basically. This is one of their groups.
Weren't some of these inscriptions references to video games that he plays?
One of
the
them was
up-down
Ciao
thing.
Bella, reference to an Italian anti-fascist song, Bella Ciao. And then the last one said, if you read this, you are gay.
But the thing is, Amy, there are up, 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 down arrows. That's what you're talking
Oh,
about.
the reference to the video
Exactly.
game. Okay, got
That's that reference.
So, I mean, already there's the OWO refers to a furry trans group. Now, guys, we're going to break down a little bit more in that piece because it's interesting to see that a lot of people from that Discord server, people from that community had actually come out and posted about Charlie Kirk's assassination ahead of time. Some of them days earlier. One of them was actually, we can actually pull it up now, Connor. Let's go ahead and then we can circle back to the ChatGPT thing. So one of them was actually a SoundCloud song. Charlie Kirk dead at 31. I believe there was also a second song that was also posted up ahead of time.
Wait. This was released before he was
Before
assassinated?
he was assassinated, Anna. Let's go to the Amazon book. There was also an Amazon book that was released. It's in the production doc, Connor, The Shooting of Charlie Kirk.
The post date was earlier.
One day earlier.
Yeah.
And then it disappeared.
One day prior. And then in addition to that, Connor, I do have a screenshot from a news article. It was something along the lines of, let me find it here. It'd be funny if someone like Charlie Kirk got shot on September 10th, LMAO. This was reporting by the Washington Free Beacon. There was a assortment of different people who were identifying within the furry community, which, you know, that is an arm of the transgender community, that seemed to have prior awareness that this was going to take place. And for that reason, despite the fact that there have been ample inconsistencies in trying to put the blame on Tyler Robinson, everything from the text messages, there is a video where someone did a simulation of how long it would have taken to disassemble the rifle and do everything that Tyler was claimed to have done. The time frame simply does not match up. There are some weird things with it. However, when you take that into consideration with the fact that people from this community seem to know about this ahead of time, it does seem like it is a part of some bigger conspiracy. I do not believe that he acted alone, at the very least, for this reason. That is for sure one part of the official narrative that either they are hiding from us. I'm sure they have information that expands beyond what they've shared currently, because even the internet sleuths have been able to dredge up all of this and have it fact-checked and verified.
I think the heart of this problem is that I don't really have much faith in Kash Patel's leadership as head of the FBI, because he bungled it from the very beginning, starting with all sorts of misinformation that he spread about having the suspect in custody when there was no suspect in custody. I want to know more about that Zinn guy who
was also
that they arrested.
He was at the 9/11.
So this is-
what are the chances of that
he
happening?
claimed that he was like planning to, you know, bomb the Boston Marathon, like around the time that
He's
the
a
Boston
crisis actor.
There's something weird about that guy.
He appears to be a crisis actor, and this is an issue that these people are funded by leftist organizations, PLS, who we've spoken about previously on this show. These were one of the funders of the No Kings riot as well, and one of the organizers of that. There are people who are intentionally sending crisis actors into these scenarios, which then begs the question, how deep does this go? What don't we know then? Because the likelihood of George Zinn being there, a crisis actor from 9/11 in the exact same place where this took place, I believe they asked ChatGPT, do you know the number? I think it was like
Something,
one in
it's like easier to win the lottery,
basically than the likelihood that he would have been in both of those locations.
I could not agree with you
wrong
more.
with that guy.
I want to follow up on something that Anna said. It's really, I do want our viewers to fully understand what we mean by the Breaking Bad scenario.
Please.
I'm not going to spoil the show.
You can spoil it. It's been forever. If you haven't watched it yet, that's your fault.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true. Yeah,
Sorry.
It's been like a decade.
But
yeah.
It is one of the best shows of all time.
It's just
All transparency.
highly recommend watching it. Just such
So
classic
upsetting because
American
Bryan
TV.
Cranston would probably hate this show because he's so far left, but
really?
he's so talented.
But Bryan,
it's like,
I
it
mean, we
kills
love
me.
you.
So you know what? Spoiler
I do
alert.
want to say that so Walter White was a drug kingpin. He was a chemistry teacher who had cancer and initially just wanted to find a way to pay off his medical bills. But anyway, it spiraled. in the final episode, he berates his wife on the phone. He calls her all sorts of names, saying like, you're scum, basically. He excoriates her. And that was his attempt to exonerate his wife. Exactly, to make it seem, because he knew
Like
that
she
the
didn't
phone,
know about the drug trade that he was involved in. Yeah.
And so, because he knew that the phone conversation was being tapped. So he wanted to make it seem like he was the only one involved. And so that's what we mean by this text conversation. It seemed really orchestrated and curated, and you could tell that something was missing too. I think texts were deleted.
Yeah. Well, that was obvious because they actually put the like ellipsis point there, or the ... or the semicolon, I believe. And so in what they released, that was to indicate that there was some context missing between each of them. So that much has been admitted. I mean, we know for a fact that these were doctored. In what manner? But were they doctored, or were they just contrived in the first place? That's what a lot of people are kind of starting to feel, especially when you consider that all of these other trans individuals seem to have known that this took place. So how are you going to then message your trans lover and be like, oh, my love, I'm sorry, I had hoped to keep this from you until old age.
We're not
like,
in the Victorian age. We're not a Jane Austen character. Like, why is he behaving like...
I mean, maybe he talks like that, but I mean, ChatGPT said structure and tone, the constant over-explaining, the roommate's
sounds like
responses
Jane Eyre.
as well.
Like, come on. Another thing is, I'm going to drop another TV reference. I love The Wire. Absolutely love it. I love Stringer Bell. I highly recommend everyone watch The Wire. And one of the most critical lessons from that show is do not take notes on a motherfucking criminal conspiracy. It's something that people just know. Like, it's... I think Tyler is smart enough not to leave a paper trail, which leads me to believe that that was intentional.
I thought that was the strangest part about all of this. That, like, usually when it comes to these types of crimes or these types of murders, there's no big smoking gun. And it's like, it's just too easy, right? Like the text message exchange is too easy. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, if you're gonna murder someone, you're like considered really, really smart. You have a perfect score on the ACT and all of that. How are you not smart enough to understand that you shouldn't have a digital trail of the crime that you're committing?
Kind of leaves something like Luigi Mangione.
Yeah.
You know, he pulls down his face to flirt with the girl, the mask, and it's like, bro. You wore the mask.
I mean,
but then
it's the weakness for men,
but it
you know?
just, I'm like,
there's a
what?
pretty lady.
Well, speaking of Luigi Mangione, though, right?
Yeah,
'Cause he ended up being arrested in a McDonald's or something, right? Something
we should
like
probably
that.
have done a segment on this because his terrorism charges got thrown out. Did you see?
Oh yeah, I did see that.
It got pleaded. It got.
But here's the thing. Well, I'm sorry
Just
to
really
go.
quick,
Yeah, go.
they also found a picture of Tyler Robinson inside, I believe it was a Dairy Queen.
Oh yeah.
That was taken
And
at
Candace
a
Owens was-
time that shows that it would have been inconsistent with the timeline that they're describing. So
The
there's
whole
a
thing is
host of
weird.
things.
The whole thing
Yeah.
is weird. And
It's-
again, it goes back to people not really trusting our government institutions. I don't have a lot of faith in Kash Patel for a number of different reasons, including the way he has handled this investigation from the beginning. You know, he even said something really strange about how there was like some sort of confession note that Tyler Robinson had sent to his friends, but it got destroyed. And thanks to the FBI's aggressive interview posture, they have forensic evidence of it. Like, I'm just like, what are you talking about?
Right, yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, and you keep saying different things. Clearly, even the federal government doesn't have much trust in Kash Patel because he went to Orrin, Utah to join that press conference before they had finally apprehended the suspect. And he didn't say a single word. You want to know why? Because the Trump administration basically told him to shut up and don't say anything. You're like ruining, you know, with your public statements, you're kind of ruining this investigation.
It's bad PR, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Anna, you're spot on. And Trump may not be saying that he's losing faith in Kash Patel, but you know what he did? He helicoptered somebody in. Dan Bongino's deputy, they just helicoptered in co-deputy Andrew Bailey. That they did not expect that to happen. That's what you do. You don't say a word, but you layer people in and you make the people obsolete.
There are rumors that he's going to replace Kash Patel. I don't know if there's much credibility to those rumors,
No way.
but I
mean,
wouldn't be
he hasn't
surprised.
replaced anyone yet.
I mean,
there have
there's
been
also
people
rumors
you
that
could
he's
have
gonna
replaced.
replace Pam
Bondi.
Pam
Yeah,
Bondi.
people are calling to have her replaced.
I agree.
No way.
How does she not know what our constitutional rights are? How do you not know
To
that
call for
hate speech?
I mean,
Hate speech is protected under our constitution.
Ironically, I don't think Trump cares about that. I think he actually loves the fact that she said
he
that.
does. He wants
But he's
to-
upset that she's not going after his enemies.
Oh yeah, we all saw that tweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that should have been a DM. Should have been a DM.
Should have been a DM. Yes. All right, guys.
Okay.
Let's kind of pivot. There's one more massive conspiracy that we have to talk about. We wouldn't be reporting on the news if we didn't address it. Let me preface by saying I do not think that this is the case. Okay, so everyone go easy.
There are also two things. You're going to cover two things, right? There's the Israel and the Ackman, right?
Yeah.
Two separate things.
I mean, these are two separate things, but people are kind of lumping them into
They're
one
conflating
thing,
them,
right?
yeah.
They are for sure conflating them, and they shouldn't be. We're going to get into all of that. So, Charlie Kirk has been pro-Israel. He has been taking money from Jewish donors. He has been doing his part to win the hearts of Generation Z on this issue, specifically as it relates to Israel and Palestine, and trying to encourage Christians to be more supportive of Jews, Judeo-Christian values, everything like this. Now, rumors have come out that he was in fact breaking with a lot of those ties and was starting to come into disagreement with many of these donors, and even with the president himself. I mean, we saw that shortly after the Epstein release, right, he came out and said, well, I'm going to stop talking about this because, I want to trust the government. Then he backtracked on that. We have it on good word from a few people that he, was against the regime change war that was going to be occurring in Iran. And he wanted to speak out against these things. Yes.
He was pretty public about it. Like, Charlie, it's not like he was hiding the ball. I mean, he was against engaging in a regime change war in Iran. That was one of the areas I agreed with him on. But he was very much supportive of Zionists, and that is a consistent theme you'll notice throughout his career.
Exactly.
It's just that in recent months, he started to become a little more critical of Netanyahu, critical of the ongoing, genocide in Gaza. And it's not like he turned his back on Israel.
Not at all, not at all. And also the fact, we're going to dive into it in a minute, but that he was being called anti-Semitic for just providing slight pushback. So let's go ahead and bring up this tweet here. I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against him. Now, this was posted. Yeah, was that cropped off, Connor? I think I actually just put the link to the tweet in there. Maybe it was cropped off, but this was well in advance. This is back in August.
In August,
okay?
Yep.
This tweet was posted, and obviously nobody gave any credibility to it at the time. But then after his assassination, people started to go back and look at various different clips, one of which that has gotten a lot of attention was his conversation with Megyn Kelly. If you have that one, Connor, we could play that, please. Should be inside of the production document. It's a link, Connor. It's a link. And so basically, he jumps on with Megyn Kelly, and they are discussing the fact, if you go into videos,
so this
Megyn Kelly, Israel conspiracy.
Just to give you guys a little more context into this conversation with Megyn Kelly, literally...
No, not that one.
The day before, he had this exchange with Megyn Kelly. He had gone to the Hamptons, I believe, for a meeting in which Bill Ackman was involved. And we'll get to the details of that meeting in just a minute. But
yes, we can go ahead and play this, please.
We're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice, but it goes to the point where if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megyn? That's not
so
right.
Wrong-headed. I'll tell you, this, for me, so I got some blowback after saying Mossad possibilities with Epstein, a comment behind which I stand. I mean, I realize, and I've, of course, reported what Alan Dershowitz has said as his lawyer. He says, I think he would have told me. He didn't say he had any of those connections. I hear all that. That doesn't mean it's not true. I think all these things should be explored. It's one of the many things that should be explored around Epstein. But saying that, and also saying he might be a U.S. asset, et cetera, doesn't make you anti-Semitic.
We're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of...
I think we just repeated. Thank you. So obviously he was starting to become more boisterous and vocal about some of the issues that he has. Again, in no way is he saying we're pro-Hamas. Obviously he wants Israel to win the war.
What Ana said, wait, hold on. What Ana said was
in
so
that
we have...
clip, he is saying he's being criticized for giving an audience to people like Dave Smith. He is not saying that he is changing his mind and thinks the Jews are evil. Like,
no, he wasn't changing his mind. But
I want to be real clear here.
No, but
because
no
I think
one's
this is
saying that.
dangerous, and I want to be fucking deadly accurate if we're gonna have this conversation. So that's what he was talking about. It's about the fact that Dave Smith, he gave him an audience.
Yeah.
At Turning Point, and he was being criticized for having people who didn't agree, like Tucker,
Yeah.
on the stage.
On the stage.
He wasn't
But-
saying,
so the
I have
donors-
changed my mind here, and I'm being attacked. That's
But
not
so
what
what's
he was
playing
saying.
what's playing out behind the scenes is that, you know, Turning Point USA has some very wealthy pro-Zionist donors. Those donors had a problem with the inclusion of Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson at that Turning Point, you know, event earlier this year.
Also, the fact that he was talking about Epstein.
And the fact that he was talking about Epstein, yes. So basically, he's getting this pressure from donors, which led to that meeting in the Hamptons with Bill Ackman, because Bill Ackman apparently wasn't happy with it either. But you guys also have to understand that there is a trend now with young conservatives who are not supportive of Israel or not as supportive as previous generations. So you have young people who are part of Turning Point, who go to the Turning Point events, and they're constantly debating with Charlie Kirk about this issue. And Charlie Kirk wants to be inclusive. Like, the whole point of what he was doing was to engage in debate and dialogue. So he includes, you know, Dave Smith. He includes Tucker Carlson, you know, just different voices. And then he gets, according to them, hounded by the donors. So that
Hammered is the word that...
Hammered, that's
exactly.
right. Hammered was the word that was
And by the way,
used.
Connor, I sent you a video. If we could pull this up, this kind of addresses a little bit more about what you say.
Also,
Just one more thing
what
that I
Ana
wanted to
said
watch.
was so critical. A couple lines ago, you said the timing. We cannot forget the timing because this is the day after. How do you think that summit went? Like, how do you think it?
He seemed annoyed by it,
seemed
at the very
extremely
least.
annoyed.
Yeah.
All right, let's play this.
They have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do,
Start it over,
because
please.
Jewish
have to start
donors
it over.
have been
He
the
said it-
#1 funding mechanism
please.
of radical, open border,
we have to start it
neoliberal,
over.
Start it over, please.
quasi-Marxist policy. And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like, time for you guys to wake up and say no more. Draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me.
I mean, I can
that's
narrow it down.
recent.
I can narrow it down. It's George Soros who's primarily
Okay,
funding all of
but
this.
but what does that have to do with him being critical about what's going on in Gaza?
Because he's been
He's saying
increasingly
all
critical.
of you liberal institutions that are now being killed off by your own Frankenstein, like these things that you created, wake up and pay attention.
He was critical. So he was definitely critical of the pressure he was getting from his donors.
Fair, but there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever, quite to the contrary.
Well, apparently he was offered $150 million, $150 million infusion into Turning Point USA, which would have then
There's no
doubled.
proof of that. In
Well,
fact,
it
the
is-
opposite is true, and even PBD showed that on his show.
I mean,
that this came from a guy who writes for like
Max
radical.
Blumenthal.
We
We're
need-
talking about
we-
Max
but,
Blumenthal Gray Zone.
simultaneously-
I actually
We
found
have
his
a
reporting
clip
to
of
be fairly.
PBD debunking this.
I actually found his reporting to be fairly credible. I mean,
play it.
It was validated
corroborated.
by Tucker Carlson.
Play the clip, please.
If you look at this one, this is AF Post. They said, according to multiple reports, Israel Prime Minister offered Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, $150 million in cash to adopt an even more pro-Israel stance. Kirk refused the money. If you go a little bit lower, look at the amount of views this thing got. 7.2 million views, 160,000 likes.
Who's the
And then there's
AF
another
Post?
post, Rob, if you can pull up the other one that says, right below it, that says, the journalist behind the report accusing Bibi of offering $150 million is Max Blumenthal, a man who used to work for the Iran-backed newspaper Al Akbar in
Isn't
Beirut
he
and
also
contributed
Jewish?
to Al Jazeera.
He is, yeah.
I mean,
Why is it
so-
every time we track down a lie, we end up finding people connected to Qatar or Iran?
There's no proof
behind
this
it?
ever happened.
So
None.
Wait, how does that debunk the fact
so he
that?
just read
Okay,
it. and
where's
then-
your proof that $150 million was offered from Bibi Netanyahu?
No, I'm referring.
Where is
Wait,
the proof?
please do not get
No,
angry.
because I didn't want to cover this, and you guys insisted. And I
Because
told
it's
you,
what the
you cover this
marketplace is
shit,
talking
I'm gonna
about.
rip you apart. Where is the proof?
We're not
that
saying that
Bibi
it happened.
Netanyahu
We're really
offered
not
Charlie
saying that it
$150 million.
Jillian,
Okay, so we're not. Okay, so
what we're
conversely,
reporting on is
now
people
there
in
is
the
this-
marketplace, what they're saying. This is a discussion that's happening literally everywhere. We would be remiss if we didn't cover it
It's a
to
week
debunk it.
old, this conversation.
It's still
over
I mean,
a
it's
week.
still
That
pretty prevalent.
is a week old.
It's still going on, Jillian.
Okay, well, nevertheless, where is the proof that that actually
Jillian,
happened?
I just said, according to this guy's reporting, he was offered $150 million.
Okay,
that
wasn't
the
it
whole-
also corroborated by Candace?
It was
And
corroborated by
Carlson.
Candace, and not only that, by
Candace.
Nick.
And also Mac
okay, because
Gates,
that's listen. I like Candace. She has people from his own team have said he has not seen her in years.
And yet last year they were on tour together. Last year they were on tour together.
Wait,
So
no,
that
no.
debunked that
Wait, if
instantly.
you want
That
to talk about
completely
people on
debunked
his
that.
team,
Last time they've been on camera together was
Andrew, his
2023.
press
No, it was last year.
Hold on,
They have a
Andrew,
tour
that
posted
guy
together.
was
Like,
on
okay,
so
everybody
let's
on
calm
his
down.
team
Let's just calm down
has
for a second.
subsequently said this is not true.
No, they
His
never- they
pastor,
never- they actually-
Colvett,
they
Eric
ne-
Balling, all of them are like, yeah.
Okay, Eric Bowling thought that he had 2 daughters. Okay, so I'm not going to.
Okay, Andrew Colvett. The narrative is not true.
Andrew said,
Charlie has a cordial relationship with Ackman. There's no blackmail,
also,
no
he
intervention.
said,
Nothing like what Candace is suggesting.
That same Andrew said that
Okay.
Candace and Charlie remained friends. I just want to
He's
make sure.
saying this is not true.
But they were literally touring together last year.
Nothing like what Candace is suggesting. What does that have to do with
Wait,
their
what does
friendship?
that have to do with you? Just
What
said
does that have to do with their friendship? He's
Jillian,
saying
you're
what
so-
Candace
I
is
can't
suggesting.
engage with you if you don't
He is
calm
saying
down.
what Candace is suggesting is not true.
He's talking about her suggesting that Israel killed him. We're talking
Right.
about
Yes.
100. Please do not conflate the two. Because
Okay,
they're completely
well,
distinct.
unilaterally across the board now, we've got multiple accusations that all pile up to the same exact.
No, I think it's the furries. It's the furries. I think it's the furries. But a lot of people.
I don't know, and I don't look.
There's
for those who are
zero
saying,
evidence to suggest none.
Oh, you're saying-
guys, can we just
Even
stop for a
Dave
second?
Smith
This is ridiculous.
is like, this is absurd.
Like, this whole thing is ridiculous. There are two things being conflated right now. There are conspiracy theorists who think Israel killed Charlie Kirk. They have yet to provide a shred of evidence proving that. Done. End
We're
of
not
story.
talking about that
I
today.
am talking about something
You
entirely
were talking
different.
about
no,
that.
we're not.
Hold
on.
Oh, you
Let
were
me
talking
finish
about
my
that.
fucking thought. Okay? The real issue here is that before most people even knew that Charlie Kirk was dead, you have Netanyahu giving multiple interviews talking about how, using the fucking moment for his own political purposes, like the fucking
That's
ghoul that he
totally
is. Let me finish my point.
Than him killing Charlie Kirk.
He
not
never
just
said that.
I literally
Okay, so now we're just gonna make a
let me finish
sidebar
my
to-
point, Jillian, because none of us can finish the damn point without someone else jumping down your throat. I don't think that Israel killed him because there's no evidence of that. But I had a problem with Netanyahu exploiting an assassination in this country for his own political means and purposes and lying about the nature of his relationship with Charlie Kirk. Because Charlie Kirk didn't like Netanyahu, just like any warm-blooded American shouldn't. Netanyahu is a bad guy. And he wanted to make it seem like, no, we were all great. We were good. We had a great relationship. Little did we know behind the scenes,
I don't
there
know
was a
how
lot
every
of pressure
show
toward
ends up being
Netanyahu.
about how do we bash Israel. This is not for me. I am not interested in this.
Okay,
I love
I
you
know.
guys. I'm sorry.
Let's be good.
I
Let's
have
be good about
zero
precious
interest
Israel. Let the
in
country
fucking
committing a
every show
genocide.
doing
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
Zero. I think you guys are great. I fundamentally disagree with you about like every show doing this. I'm sorry.
Cool. So can we continue the
Yeah,
conversation?
let's not. Let's.
Okay.
You wanted to do it anyway.
Finish the last topic.
All right.
All right.
Wow. Okay, guys. So, again, to clarify, I don't think Israel did it. And you know, want to know what's crazy is the person who is labeled the #1 anti-Semite out there, who has been anti-Semitic for the last 10 years, Nicholas Fuentes, has come out and said there is no evidence that suggests that Israel did it. And that's actually what I was literally just about to show.
No one on the
So-
show is saying that.
We can play that, please, really quick. Guys, thank you.
They say that
Jesus
Charlie
Christ,
Kirk
man.
was offered an infusion of $150
I've never met a group of
million
people more sensitive than those who defend Israel at any and all costs. I'm sorry, it is not some angelic country. It's a foreign country, and we have the right to be as critical of a foreign country as we want. We have the right to be as critical of our own country as we want.
And
we are fucking Americans,
And
okay?
you know what? We get in less trouble for being critical of America than if we were to be critical of
100%.
Israel.
And I'm sorry, it is ghoulish. It is ghoulish to take advantage of a political assassination in a foreign country, as Netanyahu did, to spread your disgusting political message that wasn't even right, that wasn't even accurate.
Yeah, didn't he imply that it was to do with Islamists?
He said that it was Islamists that killed Charlie Kirk.
At that point, there was no information that had come out. There wasn't anything that
he blamed it on the Muslims, and this, by the way,
has nothing to do with
Muslims.
That's my point. That's not a conspiracy theory. This is actually what he did. It's well
also,
documented.
He said he had a letter from Charlie, which also turned out to be he misdescribed it, and so Netanyahu is just not a. I'm just like shocked. Yeah, no one here was saying that Israel.
I do not think Israel killed him.
We have to be able to intellectually explore ideas and concepts, and if we can't, that's when things start to get a little bit weird.
If you have an emotional breakdown every time someone criticizes a foreign country, I really think you should do some self-examination.
Yeah, look, I don't want to trash Jillian. You know, she had an emotional reaction to that. It's her right. It is what it is. But I do think that it's totally legitimate to talk about something tragic happening in our country and that being exploited and weaponized by a foreign leader.
Yeah,
that's not a conspiracy theory. That actually happened.
And whether Israel, there's been a lot of theories about Israel throughout the years, and whether or not they were the ones to actually contrive certain things, that's up for debate. But what we know is Israel is really good at never wasting a crisis.
That's right.
It's like they have a room full of people on standby that when something like this happens, how can we spin this in such a way? And nobody can deny that. Well, everybody was looking the other way during this incident, consumed with this news cycles. There were various different legislations that were attempting to be
the Epstein files, they voted not to release that. Also, Lauren Boebert introduced a bill saying that whoever criticizes Israel, their passport should be
revoked, so you could not even travel internationally.
So
and that was
all
for citizens, right? Was that for citizens or for visa holders?
If you have a passport.
Yeah, anyone who has a passport. That includes American citizens.
Right.
Yeah, that is fundamentally wrong.
I brought this up to someone recently, and they said, "Oh no, that's just for visa holders."
No, if you have a U.S. passport, you're by definition American citizen.
Right. Exactly. And look, they pulled back on that, luckily, because there was so much backlash.
The fact that they even thought it was okay to introduce it. Exactly. That is so anathema to everything we hold dear as a country.
I think there's something wrong right now in American culture where there's literally just one country and one government that is just above any and all criticism
and Charlie
or backlash.
said that. You know?
That is right. Charlie did say that. And he fostered the type of environment where debates were allowed. And the fact that you can't have a conversation about this is crazy.
I want to mention that at the Hampton Summit, he asked the people there, he invited a group of influencers, to talk about, it wasn't even just about Israel, it was all sorts of things, like the threat of Marxism and Zoran Mamdani. It was not just about Israel, let me be clear. But he asked a group assembled there, he's like, what do you think would happen if I demanded Bibi Netanyahu's resignation? And some of the reactions were like, you would be called anti-Semitic. And he said, that's problematic because me criticizing a leader is not anti-Semitic. In fact, it's like my love for Israel. This guy is deeply committed to Israel as a Christian.
He believes in the biblical prophecy of the Old Testament. He's more of a Semitic,
it doesn't mean that you applaud every decision made by this government, this secular government.
Yeah. So let me ask something. So obviously Charlie Kirk was deeply religious and very conservative. Let's say we lived in an alternate universe where the Israeli government is a leftist government, where they believe in Marxism. Is Charlie Kirk not allowed to criticize that?
Right.
I mean, really think about it for a second, because to me, a foreign government is not representative of an entire people.
Right.
Right? I don't look at Israel and think Israel is Jews. No, I don't think that at all, not for a second. The current Israeli government is not representative of all Jews. They're just not.
Right.
And so the way a government operates should be criticized if I see it fit, if you see it fit. I mean, it's up for debate. It's up for discussion. But the fact that it's like, oh, no, you can't touch it. That's wrong. We're going to call you anti-Semitic. We're going to smear you. We're going to destroy your family, which, by the way, I've had my own taste of that. That's why I am inclined to believe that Charlie Kirk was under the kind of pressure that he was under. That doesn't mean Israel assassinated him.
Correct.
But it does mean that totally separate story, that he was under a lot of pressure because young conservatives are not in line with older conservatives as it pertains to support for Israel.
Absolutely.
At the same time, the Zionist donors for Turning Point USA didn't like the fact that young conservatives were moving away from Israel. That is an interesting story involving tension, involving the influence of money into these organizations. That's all we're talking about.
And when you misleadingly conflate two completely different issues, though, that's a red herring. That's a way to avoid actual discussions and accountability. You have to be able to have this discussion. Like when we trash Ukraine, and I've trashed Zelensky, no one is saying I'm anti-Ukrainian. No one is accusing me of being a bigot. I can't remember the last time someone smeared me as a racist for criticizing Zelensky and saying that there's no lack of accountability for the billions that we've been spending there. We should be able to have these conversations because it's taxpayer-funded operations. We are sending so many weapons there. We are taking a beating on the international stage for this country.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about it. Let's
No, it is our right. Hey, I'm not asking permission. It is our right as Americans to talk about anything we see fit. I'm not going to let a foreign country or American supporters of a foreign country to censor me or censor anyone.
And you know what? When they do that, what does it do? It amplifies the conspiracies.
It does,
because
100%.
people are like, oh, we're not allowed to flesh out these ideas in the free marketplace. We're not allowed to let the free marketplace determine that this is a ridiculous idea, such as many people did.
Right.
There's a lot of people who are anti-Semitic out there who wanted to blame Israel. And then even people like Nick Fuentes, where they're saying, no, show me a single shred of evidence. Leave it to the free market. We're actually kind of smart out there. We can figure out which ideas hold value and which ideas don't. We don't need daddy government or any other influences, for that matter, telling us what we can and cannot speak about.
Amen. That was so well said.
I think it's a good place to leave it if you're cool with that. Because I wanted to just do one more story and then wrap up this episode.
Perfect.
So let's talk a little bit about Kash Patel, because Kash Patel is getting a lot of heat, a lot of backlash, not just from the left, but notably conservatives who are very excited about him serving as the FBI, head of the FBI. But he's had some fumbles, as PBD likes to say. Big fumbles, if you ask me. So FBI Director Kash Patel is facing a lot of backlash from both sides of the political aisle over how he's handling multiple big issues. So there have been several issues. There's the obvious cover-up of the Epstein files, the fact that he has failed to release the Epstein files. And that obviously has infuriated the right, who expected far more transparency from the federal government under Trump's second term, but they didn't get it. Then there's Patel's handling of the investigation to Charlie Kirk's murder, which has drawn the ire of both the left and the right, and I'm happy to see that. So he came out and claimed right off the bat that they had a suspect apprehended when they didn't. That was like the big issue in the very beginning. Then he insisted on visiting Orrin, Utah, where the assassination happened. But the FBI director usually doesn't do that, doesn't travel to the scene of the crime. But he did it. And then before the suspect had been detained, he joined this press conference where he didn't utter a single word. And we're learning now that he was essentially advised not to speak because he kept bungling these press conferences. So take a look at this video. He just looks so lost. He looks like, it kind of looks like bring your kid to work day. You know what I mean? Where he's like looking around all bug-eyed, but doesn't say a single word. Not a good look for the FBI director, to be honest.
Didn't they actually arrest two people who weren't right?
They did. They had detained two individuals. One of them was that Zinn guy.
Who was the George Zinn, and then the second one was the one who was dressed in the similar clothing to Tyler.
Exactly. So that happened. And then Utah authorities were actually the ones who captured Tyler Robinson, who at the moment, of course, is the prime suspect in this assassination. And even right-wing activist Christopher Rufo has not been pleased at all with Kash Patel, writing that he's grateful that Utah authorities have captured the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination and think it is time for Republicans to assess whether Kash Patel is the right man to run the FBI.
Wow.
He performed terribly in the last few days, and it's not clear whether he has the operational expertise to investigate, infiltrate, and disrupt the violent movements or whatever ideology that threaten the peace in the U.S. He ends it with, "We would be wise to take a moment and ask whether Kash Patel has what it takes to get this done. I've been on the phone the last few days with many conservative leaders, all of whom wholeheartedly support the Trump administration, and none of whom are confident that the current structure of the FBI is up to this task. I happen to agree. It feels
That's a
like
big deal coming from this dude.
It is. And so this isn't just like, Democrats or leftists coming out against Kash Patel. I mean, to be sure, they're not supportive of Kash Patel. But I think Trump's most avid supporters are realizing this guy is not competent for the job. And I agree. I agree. You need to have trust and faith in our institutions.
Right.
And when you don't, that's when the conspiracy theories start to fly.
100%.
I think this guy has Pam Bondi syndrome in that he loved getting in front of the TV. He loved the viral tweet. And so he got ahead of himself and posted erroneous information out there. But if it's an ongoing investigation of international import, you cannot be doing that.
Right, yeah.
Because everything matters. And this guy, and it's also the two of them staring into a camera, him and Dan Bongino looking like deer in the headlights saying, oh no,
hostage video.
Epstein definitely didn't commit suicide,
Which makes you think, like, I mean, is this a guy who started with really good intentions, who wanted to make a big difference, and then he was confronted with this beast? And on that note, would it make any difference if he was, fired and replaced by somebody else? Is this the nature of the beast now? Because when you look at Epstein, okay, let's talk about Epstein first.
Let's talk about Epstein.
Because that specifically, we all know there's more there. He came out and he said under oath that there wasn't anything else. There weren't more testimonies.
I have video that we got to get into.
Yeah, okay, let's play that, please.
So over the last week, Kash Patel has been questioned before the House Judiciary Committee and the Senate Judiciary Committee. And I think his testimony has been telling, to say the least. Because if he's trying to engage in a believable cover-up, it's not working, okay? He keeps getting caught in lies. Let's start with the first video. This is before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Kennedy is asking him about the existence of the Epstein files and whether or not Epstein had trafficked young girls to other powerful men. And get a load of this.
You've seen most of the files.
Can we turn it up?
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Okay. Why? Like, Free gets laid then. Free just laid. Like,
no
seriously.
one guy has that much of a libido. I'm sorry.
No, total BS, okay? And you know it's BS when later, before the House Judiciary Committee, Thomas Massie came with receipts.
Oh, I love this man.
Yes.
I love this man.
He came with what's referred to as the 302 files. The 302 files are summaries of the FBI's interviews with the witnesses and with the victims. And so in it, you're going to have a list of certain people who have been accused by the victims. Now, notice that Massie is going to name one name here. Take a look.
You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer, worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
That was, okay, that moment was incredible. And obviously, Massie's like, yo, I got the 302 files of the victims and witnesses, and they're naming names. So he did name one name, although he had alluded to 20 different people. He only named one name, and that was Jess Staley. At the time that Jess Staley met Epstein, he was the chief executive of Barclays Bank, and this was in the late 1990s. Basically, he developed a relationship with Epstein because he was helping to manage Epstein's money. Later, he became the chief executive of JP Morgan. But what was interesting was, remember, there were two occasions in which Epstein was prosecuted. One was in 2006, the other was in 2018. This guy, Staley, remained friends and had close communication with Epstein even after the 2006 prosecution, and in fact lied to the authorities in 2018 about the nature of his relationship with Epstein and was fined millions of dollars as a result of lying to the authorities.
They did perjury.
This is so interesting. And do you guys know the bank that did the most to cover up hundreds of millions of dollars of Jeffrey Epstein?
do.
Do you want to tell?
JP Morgan.
Exactly.
Yep.
So this is incredibly fishy. And then when asked about it, the bank is like, oh, oops, sorry. Like, we should have done a better job. We should have had better, more controls in place. You think?
Yeah.
And I also want to draw our audience's attention to the fact that the UK ambassador to the United States had to resign in disgrace just a week ago because he also lied about the nature of his relationship with Epstein. And also, he stayed with him after he was already outed as a sex trafficker. So this is just astounding stuff.
Just on those two things alone, there should be enough evidence that he trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein. No, what are you talking about? Just based off of the evidence that already exists of what you guys are talking about, I hadn't even heard of that, let alone all of the new evidence that they're trying to push forward. I did hear, though, that apparently Massey was finally able to get enough votes on his resolution as of yesterday.
I don't have that update. So maybe you're right.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to vote on whether the information does get released, but he was finally able to canvass enough votes for that, the 218.
The one other thing I'll say about Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, these two legislators have committed to releasing the names of the alleged clients if all other avenues of doing so have been exhausted, because the victims, the women in that press conference, say that if they don't release the files, then we're going to name names ourselves. But they would have to deal with some pretty serious litigation and lawsuits and stuff. So as a result of like that, and in an effort to protect them, you have Massey and Greene saying, we're going to go ahead and relay those names on their behalf. But that's going to be like the final resort.
Right.
And that takes guts. That takes
that's
courage.
So
Absolutely.
You know, I'm going to be honest here. I've criticized Marjorie Taylor Greene vehemently.
Me too. Yeah.
Over the years, especially over January 6th. But she has been so valiant on this issue, not only this, but also on Gaza.
Yeah,
so
getting
many things.
Foreign money out of our politics. She's been a warrior on that front, and I'm really, really happy that she is, because she is a fighter.
I never thought I would
getting
be
rid of
complimenting
geoengineering, the thing that everyone thought was a conspiracy theory. She's like, hey, no, we're going to try to actually make that a felony if you do that to the American citizens. I have gained so much respect and admiration.
Never
for her.
thought that I would be here today.
Me either. But honestly, it seems like her and Thomas Massey are two of the only politicians, at least on the right, that aren't bought and paid for their opinions.
Exactly, and that's why they are drowning Thomas Massey's district in money right now.
Right.
And it's extremely clever, because the interests behind that money, they don't come out and say who they are. They actually change the nature of the ads depending on whether that person is Democratic or Republican. They're not going to mention, they're not going to mention who it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they're very clever about concealing who the identities of the donors are.
I would love to have Thomas Massey on this show.
I would
think
too.
that
It would be a
incredible.
great conversation. Same with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I would love to interview them.
Either one of them.
And look, the final thing I'll say about this before we wrap is who Kash Patel purported to be prior to being named as FBI director is so different from the way that he's behaving today. And if you have actual principles, if you are in the belly of the beast and you see that it's not even tenable to do what you set out to do, then you got to step down. And I think it's telling that he's not stepping down, and instead he is now playing a role in this charade about the Epstein files, and at the same time bungling a really important investigation into a political assassination in the country.
Yeah, I also want to say one final thing. He's being sued by 3 former FBI officials right now as we speak. So I know he's facing, they're alleging that they were fired for political reasons. So he's under a lot. He's facing a lot right now.
Well, hey, that was the other thing, is that Kash Patel fired the head of the, is it the FBI for Utah?
Yes,
which apparently she had so many accolades. She was seen as like a golden star in her.
And we never really got a reason why she was let go.
Yeah.
That was strange, but
he's done a lot of strange things, a lot of really questionable things. But again, it goes back to my question. I'm wondering, is this a personnel issue or is this a system issue? Is this a systemic issue, specifically with Epstein? I don't know. we still need to wait for more information for Charlie Kirk. But when it comes to the Epstein stuff, clearly there is an incentive to not actually give away the names because it implicates some people who are either maybe they're in the government or people funding the government or people who are adjacent to it, right?
Yep.
And when power like that overrides genuine justice and authority and the integrity of our systems, we have a real issue.
I agree.
A real issue.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies. It was a fiery show to see.
Yeah, we definitely did not expect it to end this
Thank
way,
you for, standing by and finishing up.
That's live TV for you.
It is. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
We'll do it live.
So, Lindy, please tell everyone where they can find you.
Lindy Li on X and Connect and everywhere. Thank you so much, guys.
You guys can connect me, Amy Dangerfield. You can check out my show, Dangerous Conversations, and I'm Amy Dangerfield on every platform.
And I'm Ana Kasparian. I hope you guys love the show. You can find me on Connect, Ask Me Anything, and you can find me on socials at Ana Kasparian and on YouTube at youtube.com/theyoungturks. We love you guys. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.